All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to call this City Council meeting December the 14th to order. What's going to happen next, Councilman Dodd will say a couple of things, and then we will have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Council Member Dixon. Mr. Dodd.
Okay, before we stand for a moment of silence, I just want to reference the fact that Sebastian lost what I would consider one of our favorite sons last week. Bill Simmons passed. Bill was an avid supporter of the city of Sebastian. He spent a large number of years as a police volunteer. He spent a lot of time on the Plains Zoning Commission. As a member of the Plains Zoning Commission, I worked with him when I was on the commission, and he was one of the people who was adamant about trying to make Sebastian stay the way it was and work the way it was. And I just like when you stand up for a moment of silence that you think about Bill's family, and if you knew Bill, just be thankful for the positive things he probably passed on to you. So thank you. Let's stand for a moment of silence, please. Thank you.
All right, now the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Be seated. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Mayor Jones.
Present.
Vice Mayor Nunn.
Present.
Councilmember Dixon.
Present.
Councilmember Dodd.
Here.
And Councilmember McPartland.
Here.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Council, do we have any agenda modifications? All right, hearing none, we will go into brief announcements. Councilmember Nunn.
December 16th, first let me start and say if anybody wondered what all the police cars were just leaving, that was the Shop with a Cop event going on tonight. All the police officers from here and the Indiana Sheriff's Office met with 3 busfuls of kids to head to Walmart to shop for an hour. So that's an awesome event. December 16th, Sebastian's Coke Unit Movie Night Out. Elf down at the Twin Piers starting at 5 p.m. December 16th, 17th, and 18th, Winter Wonderland event at Riverview Park. Friday at 6 p.m., Saturday 9:30 a.m. to 6 p.m., Sunday 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. On December 17th, we have Wreaths Across America ceremony at Veterans Memorial Park at noon. At 10:30 that same day at the cemetery, they're going to lay wreaths. So if you're interested in participating in that, 10:30 at the cemetery. December 23rd and 26th, City Hall will be closed for the Christmas holiday.
All right, thank you so much for that, Councilmember Nunn. I was going to repeat that 10:30 thing because it wasn't listed on our agenda, so thank you for that. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on anything that's not on the agenda? Yes, sir. Please state your name and where you're from.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. My name is John A. Norris. I live at 566 Cross Creek Circle. I've been a very happy resident here since my Citadel buddy grad opening Walt Disney had me get property here in 1970. And I've lived here full-time the last 11 years. I moved here because I didn't want to live in an area like Fort Lauderdale, Boca Raton, the Mouth of the Rat, and Miami, in which it was completely developed along the waterfront. What's happening now, and I've emailed a couple of you guys, is there's a formal site plan set for a 3-story hotel in the end of Sebastian River Drive in the news here. We know Earl's is up for sale. A developer that pays $7.25 million is not going to run a bar that's even making $3 million. He's going to put a development there. He's going to build across the street. I spent a nice time talking to Charlie Sember Jr., and whatever was published in the newspaper, I presumed that there was truth there, that an offer had been made to him about purchasing Semler's property. I hold no allegiance to him. I have allegiance to the city of Sebastian and the beautiful waterfront. He's amenable. I had a nice long conversation to a reasonable offer for his property. He loves Sebastian. He's a patriot. He put up all the crab traps with Christmas stuff on it. He kept that Army statue there for years. And I assure you, if we all can get together and make some reasonable bid for, it's a split parcel, at least for the waterfront. I will get a group of guys and volunteer, we'll put a similar statue back of stainless steel out there. I assure you, I'll get guys to do that, but I think it needs to be considered purchasing that property. The way the development's going, along the waterfront, again, with Earl's and a hotel at the end of the Indian River Drive, we're gonna lose the ambiance we have with the waterfront. And I would really like you all to consider that and make some sort of bid to him. He has got several bids. He has not accepted, according to him. This is several weeks ago. And he's amenable to receiving some sort of reasonable offer, even if we split the parcels. We won't have to buy across the street. But we've got to get the waterfront if we can. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much,
God
sir.
bless you all.
Is there anyone else? Someone else had their hands raised? Yes, sir. You come on up.
Terry McGinn, Middle Drive, Sebastian. I just wanted to call to everybody's attention that John Beadler, who was the district director for mosquito control, is very ill. I believe he's in hospice. It came to my attention. And I want to just make you aware that John came to the mosquito control district in 1955. He put in 48 years. He mentored Doug Carlson, who became the second best director of the mosquito control. And I know that his family's down here now visiting with him. And I just wanted to honor John and let everybody know. He's probably 95, 96 years old now. And he did more for mosquito control on the Treasure Coast and the whole coast of Florida. So say a prayer for John Beadler.
Thank you, sir. Is there someone else back there? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Abigail Sullivan. I've lived in Sebastian for 11 years, and I just want to say welcome to the new committee, councilwoman and the returning members. I just am so excited to see what this board will be doing in the future, and I love all of your Christmas sweaters this evening.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Come on up. That one.
Hi, Sarah Carlson. I've addressed you guys a few weeks ago regarding the flooding issue for the older homes. I just wanted to revisit that. I have spoken with the stormwater folks, and they have been communicative. Thank you very much. I just wanted I don't know if any of you did watch Channel 5 News tonight. There was a segment on that about folks having some of the very exact same issues in Martin County. And I just wanted to address that because they have had a different response, with the same builders as I happen to be having that with next door to my property. And it just seems like they're being held more accountable in Martin County as far as the builders having to make reparations and stuff to the homeowners next door and that sort of thing. Whereas, I'm being told, now I have to sue my homeowner if I want things, the homeowner next door if I want certain things done and that sort of thing. And I would just like to kind of maybe get some clarification on the disparity and that, and see if there's still maybe steps further that can be taken and to be looked into. That sort of, because I just feel that there's still not resolution that we're kind of satisfied with as far as that. So, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. All right. Thank you so much. Is there anyone else from the public who would like to speak? Come on up. Yeah.
Good evening. I'm Grace Reed, City of Sebastian. I just had a couple of things. One of the things I wanted to do was call out Saturday's Christmas parade. That was so awesome. I understand it was one of the largest ones we've had, And, I mean, the streets were just packed, especially down toward the end where we were at there in front of Mulligan's. And it looked like all the children were having a wonderful time, getting the candy with Santa Claus and the whole 9 yards. Just thank you for making sure that we had that put on. And the only other thing I wanted to say was I saw a lot of things. I probably spend too much time on social media, but I do it anyway. But the only negativity I saw were where people were talking the next morning about a lot of trash being on the streets and stuff. And I don't know how it would be to maybe during our parades, if we could put trash cans at certain points along Indian River Drive to maybe, I mean, it's a shame we have to tell people to take their trash with them or throw it away, but apparently we do. It's a sad thing, but anyway, that was just a suggestion. The second is an apology because I wasn't paying a whole lot of attention at the last meeting. I was, but I was in the middle of something when you were discussing the road paving and the bricks and replacing the bricks. And I've also seen a lot of negativity about how that money could be better spent and things like that. And one of the things that I wanted to say is it, I know it's probably too late and everything, but is it possible to maybe reconsider brick and think about stamped concrete if you're really set on having something that identifies certain places in down the city street or whatever? But I can remember back on May 11th when Mr. Carlisle first brought this to the council, that Mayor Hill had said that they were added to reduce the speed limit and let people know that people were entering a special district. I've been here 4 years, and when I first saw them, I thought, what are those? Because I had no idea what they were. I thought nobody could park there. That's how I identified them. And then that weekend, all the boat trailers, because of the overflow parking, seemed to be parked in them. I said, well, maybe they're saving them for the boats. So, but never have I seen anybody slow down on US 1 to look at those things. Because to me, the special district is, just like that gentleman has said, is the waterfront. That is our special district. We have the village shops, which is very nice and a nice place to visit, but for the most part, the waterfront is my special district, and that's, you know, what I associate with the special district part. And the only other thing was a suggestion around consent agenda items. I know that these items are something that are on there, and unless one of you pull it out to discuss it, it's just approved. At the last meeting, we approved, of course, some of it was taken out and discussed, but we approved over $535,000 worth of stuff in one swoop. So I would like to see if any, I know that there's a lot of people that watch on Zoom or watch on YouTube or Facebook, and maybe even some of the people in the audience that have not had a chance to either see the agenda, read the agenda, or in my case, I'm part of the budget committee, I have a chance to read those line items and see the justification for all those things. But if we're going to spend over $100,000 on something, even before you vote on it, if Mr. Carlisle could say, this and this is why, just to kind of give people a little bit more transparency of why we're spending the money we're spending. Money needs to be spent, and it's just going to, you know, it's part of the budget. It's been in the budget. If anybody wanted it out of the budget, the time for that talking was probably almost gone. But it just kind of gives the people who are listening online or may not know how that consent agenda item works, could have an idea of why we're getting what we're getting. So, and that was all I had. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Do we have someone else? Yes, sir, come on up.
My name is Bill Flynn. I live on Main Street. I'd just like to ask y'all to look into perhaps the city maintaining the culverts. After talking to a number of residents, it's a sticking point with a lot of people in the city, and if we could look at that and see what the cost was to the residents, then it would save a lot of grief. If those culverts are maintained, how bad our drainage is, maybe it'll work a little bit better in the meantime until we get done with the master plan. And I want to wish you all a Merry Christmas.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else from the public who would like to speak on something that's not on the agenda? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Andrea Ring. I live on Quarry Lane. And, man, if you could get that property on the river, I mean, that would be so good. And extend our waterfront. Okay, but that's not why I came up here. I came up here because we have a water problem, and in the city of Sebastian, our water and sewer is all county. There is no city of Sebastian when it comes to water and sewer. It's county. We need to get on our county people and ask them to give us a better solution to our sewer system. There are equipment out there, just like Babcock Ranch, that we can get from the EPA, and the EPA can approve these systems. We cannot use them until the Indian River County will approve us using those systems. I was told at one of the meetings, the first meeting I went to, our county commissioner told me, and some of you were there, that the reason we're not getting these equipment is because he doesn't want to do the paperwork. There is required extra paperwork to get an EPA-approved system, and he does not want to do it. We, as county people, really need to get on our county people, because we can't do anything. City of Sebastian does not exist when it comes to water and sewer. Now, we need to back this up. We have the Indian River Lagoon people right here who could help us with this. They will also give us project managers to come in and help define. By the way, they are making the city use sewer. We can't use septic. The development going up on the St. Sebastian River right now was supposed to use sewer. It's too expensive. So they're letting them use septic. Not a good system. Septic. We could use an EPA-approved system up there where we would then get water produced and not septic. And we can reuse the water. This is done all over the states, every state. It's done in parts of Florida. It's done in Tampa. It's done down in Jupiter. Why is our Indian River County people not allowing us a better solution than sewer? We need to be getting these EPA systems in and approved so we can use them. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Hearing none, public input is closed. Move on to item 8, the consent agenda. Council?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move poll item C.
Item C. All right. Anyone else would like to pull an item? All right.
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of items A, B, D, E, F, G.
I second.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Well, we spend the money. Let's do a roll call, Madam Clerk.
Vice Mayor Nunn,
Yes.
Councilmember Dixon,
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd,
Yes.
Councilmember McPartlin,
Yes.
and Mayor Jones.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Dodd.
Okay, I oppose item C, not because I have an issue with it, but in consideration to the speaker that just talked about when we spend large amounts of money on the consent agenda, we have an opportunity to speak about it. I do want to say, before the city manager responds to this item C, that all the consent agenda items are actually in the budget. If it's a non-budgeted item, it doesn't really show up in the consent agenda. So you can kind of feel rest assured that these things have been vetted because they're actually budget items that are in there. Ms. Carlisle, would you like to explain item C, if you would, please, sir?
Absolutely. This is a machinery that will go down into the bottom of those ditches and clean those bottom of those ditches out. Our backhoes are inefficient, can't move any material but the length of the boom. The bottom of those ditches are mucky and soft, and so this track bulldozer will be able to push that material down to the end of the ditch where it can be removed, so we get all that nutrients and all that vegetation out of the flow line of the ditch, which in turn helps improve our drainage, overall drainage.
Okay. And if you want to see a practical example of this, if you drive down Main Street, not too far up the road here, there's a one in the bottom of a ditch that's cleaning that ditch out. So I move approval for item C.
Second.
So we have a motion, second. Who's going to take it? Chris?
You might go.
Kelly?
Ms. Dixon
Kelly,
had it.
second. Ms. Dixon?
Thank you.
All right, all in favor, signify aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, move on to committee appointments. Item 9A, Planning and Zoning Commission, we have, I have Dennis Haddix that's on there, and I'd like to extend his term, if the council would agree with me, to expire January 1st of 2025.
Can you include in that waiving the public notification for that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I'll second that motion, yeah.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor signify aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign? All right, next item, item 10. 10A. So we're going to need to remove this from the table. So we're going to call for a motion to remove from the table.
I move that we remove ordinance O-2207 from the table.
I second that.
All right, public discussion.
Well, actually, can I say
Yes, sir.
something before we go forward?
Yeah.
Okay, I had an opportunity to attend a meeting yesterday with the city manager and the growth management director and Mr. Bass, and they came to a meeting in the minds that the feeling is that the annexation agreement can be worked out in time for us to approve this item at our February 8th meeting. I think we all
but we
feel-
first got to take this one take it off the table.
It's already
before
off
we
the
go.
table. We just voted on that.
Yes.
Yeah, we voted on moving it off the table, so it's active now. Yeah. Yeah, did we not?
No,
we just
we did
seconded.
not.
Oh, we
I
didn't?
just
Okay.
opened and a call for a
Oh, okay,
motion on
okay, I
that,
see what
so,
you're
yeah.
saying.
So now we're on the public discussion on that. Hearing none. So now we can call for a vote.
Okay, can I now interject before we
Yes,
do a vote? Okay, so I would like to move.
No, this
that-
is, we got to get this off the table, get this motion passed first, and
vote
then
on
move
the
forward
table.
with that. Okay. Yeah, we got to move forward. Okay, let's call the vote. We're going to call it, Madam Clerk.
Okay, Councilmember McPartlin,
Yes.
Mayor Jones,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nunn,
Yes.
Councilmember Dixon,
Yes.
and Councilmember Dodd.
Yes,
Thank you.
All right, now, for procedures for legislative hearing, we're going to open the hearing for item A.
and now let me interject if I can.
Yes, sir, you may.
Okay. I would like to, I make a motion that we continue hearing for ordinance O-2207 to the February 8th, 2023 meeting.
I would second that. So we have a motion second. Do we have any discussion on that from council? Hearing none, we call the vote. Madam Clerk, I want to put this.
Wait, I got
Sorry,
a
go ahead.
February 8th, now, do we have a date when we're gonna see an annexation agreement coming before us or anything? Or anticipation?
Yes, Mr. Carlisle.
Yeah, our anticipation is to have it at least a couple weeks ahead of that time for you all to look at it.
That's kind of what, yesterday in the meeting that I sat in on, the parties all agreed that they could complete this in time for us to have it in the public 2 weeks prior to the February 8th meeting.
Okay, because when I saw the other, a lot of red lines through it, and then I don't think Mr. Googleman, who we hired on as an expert, had the ability to look at any of it.
Yeah.
So you think what you've hashed out, whatever it's minus, that will ultimately go to Mr. Googleman?
So he'll have to review it, of course.
And the general feeling among the two parties that are involved in negotiation was that they could have their negotiation completed in time for us to have this in the public domain 2 weeks prior to the February 8th meeting, which that was my concern, was that we needed it out, finished, willing to be signed at least 2 weeks prior to the time that we met on it. And that we don't complete an approval on the annexation until we have an ironed out and approved annexation agreement.
Any other discussion?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
A procedural question, if possible. At what point do we need, if we do, to make a decision whether or not we authorize one of the council members to be a party in the negotiations? Is that something we can do?
We don't want to do that.
We don't want to do that.
If we do, the negotiations have to be in the public domain.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's not, yeah,
Okay.
I was invited to sit in on the meeting yesterday by the city manager, primarily because I'd made comments back to him on the agreement.
Right.
And, but I think if one of us were to become an active party of the negotiating team, it would mean having to have the negotiations in this room with the audience, and
Gotcha.
it complicates the whole process.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Any more comments from council? All right, call the roll, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I don't know if the public, anybody?
No, the public, not in this, no.
Mayor Jones?
Call the roll.
Mayor Jones?
Yes.
Okay. Vice Mayor Nunn?
Yes.
Councilmember Dixon?
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
And Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
Thank you.
That's because we're tabling it. Okay.
All right, so now we're going to move on to item B, second reading, public hearing. This hearing is open.
And Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Dodd.
once again, I would like to make a motion that we continue the second reading of ordinance O-12-13, is that right? No, 2213, I'm sorry, I wrote
22.
12 when it's 22. 2213 to our February 8, 2023 meeting. The reason for that is that has to actually pass after we pass the annexation agreement, so.
Correct. All right, any discussion on that, Madam Clerk?
Oh, second that.
Yeah.
Vice Mayor Nunn?
Yes.
Councilmember Dixon?
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
And Mayor Jones?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to item 10C, second reading and public hearing of ordinance number O-22-14, voluntary annexation for man caves on Old Dixie. Meeting is open. Mr. Anand.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is an ordinance of the City of Sebastian, Florida, providing for the voluntary annexation for land consisting of 4.56 acres, more or less, located south and east of a vacant property west of Old Dixie Highway and FEC right-of-way, and north of multiple family residential development, providing for the extension of the corporate limits and boundaries thereof, providing for proposed land use and zoning classification, providing for scrivener's errors, providing for conflict and severability, and providing for an effective date.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Mr. Carlisle.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, members of council, again, this is the second reading. This was heard on the first reading, passed unanimously. Planning and zoning has also approved this to move forward. The only change to this ordinance since the previous was at the direction of council to add the language regarding the 20-foot right-of-way on his conceptual site plan to this property for the expansion of Old Dixie Highway. And if there's any, that's the only change that I recall. And with that, I would ask council, if you have any questions of staff, Ms. Frazier is here, but we would ask you to approve ordinance 22-14 for the annexation of what is called the man cave.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on this item? All right. Hearing none, public input is closed. Staff, may I hear your final?
Unless you have any
Nothing?
other questions of us, we're here for any support you may need.
All right. This hearing is closed. Council, what's your pleasure?
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of ordinance number O-22-14.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify aye.
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 Any opposed, like sign. Motion passed unanimously. Next item is item 10D, second reading and public hearing of ordinance number O-22-15, request for small-scale comprehensive plan future land use map amendment, man caves. This hearing is open. Mr. Anand.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is an ordinance of the City of Sebastian, Florida, approving a small-scale amendment of the Comprehensive Plan Future Land Use Map to designate a land use classification of CG, General Commercial, for land with a current land use designation of L2, Low Density Residential, for land consisting of 4.56 acres, more or less, located south and east of Spirit of Sebastian PUD, PUD, west of Old Dixie Highway and FEC right-of-way, and north of multiple family residential development, authorizing findings and administrative actions, providing for conflict, providing for severability, providing for scrivener's error, providing for an effective date, and providing for an adoption schedule.
All right, thank you so much, sir. Mr. Carlisle.
Yeah, Mayor, members of council, again, this is the second reading of this public hearing for the zoning. This property is currently zoned residential in its county's configuration. We're asking it to be rezoned to commercial general, which is consistent with the use the applicant is asking for, and it does meet the criteria for surrounding uses. And we ask you to consider approving this, and again, Ms. Fraser's here to answer any substantial questions you may have. Just to note, this is a small-scale annexation under 50 acres, so it doesn't require a formal review. We would ask you to allow us to transfer this to DEO, but it would not become effective until 31 days after the accepted date, which would be from today if you approve it.
All right, thank you so much, sir. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on this item? I'm sorry, I forgot to ask about Zoom earlier. Do we have anyone with their hands raised on Zoom?
No one has raised their hand.
All right, public input is now closed. Staff, if you have anything else to say, if not, this hearing is closed. Council?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to push for ordinance approval of O22-15.
Second. Any discussion? Having none, roll call.
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
Mayor Jones?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nunn?
Yes.
And Councilmember Dixon?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, next item that we have is item 10E, second reading and quasi-judicial hearing of ordinance number O-22-16, request for rezoning, man caves. This hearing is now open. Mr. Nunn, could you read the title for us?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. This is an ordinance of the City of Sebastian, Florida, designating a zoning classification of CG, open paren, commercial, general, close paren, with current zoning designations of RM6, open paren, multifamily residential district, 6 units / acres, close paren, for land consisting of 456 acres, more or less, located south and east of Spirit of Sebastian, PUD, PUD, west of Old Dixie Highway and FEC right-of-way, and north of multiple family residential developments, providing for conflict, providing for severability, providing for scrivener's error, and providing for an effective date.
All right, thank you very much, sir. Council, does anybody had any ex parte conversations with the?
No.
None? All right, Madam Clerk, anyone who wishes to testify in this matter or speak, please stand and be sworn in.
Do you swear or affirm that the factual statements and factual representation which you are about to give or present during this public hearing will be truthful and accurate? Thank you.
All right, the applicant can come forward and do your presentation.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Vice Mayor, lady and gentlemen of the council. My name is Herb Green with CAD-Jazz Engineering. We have reviewed all of the staff recommendation and reports and concur and request you all approve our rezoning request. And the applicant is very excited about moving forward with this project at the earliest. So we request your approval. Thank you. I'll be available to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, sir. Staff, can you present your findings, please?
Thank you, Council. Yes, I just want to clarify that what you passed previously was the land use, and this is the zoning of the property, that is why it's quasi-judicial. But the staff have reviewed its placement in this community and its value in changing it to this zoning, and we support the request and ask for your approval.
Thank you so much. Anyone on the council have questions for the applicant or staff on this?
No, but I have a comment, if I may.
Yes, sir.
now that that property's in the city, our code enforcement guys are gonna be involved in it, and I drove by there and it's still kind of a mess.
Yes.
So I would anticipate that now that it's in the city and we have code enforcement, that the applicant may think about cleaning it up a little bit. Even though I know construction is not gonna start tomorrow, it's gonna take some time to do that, so, it would be nice to have it cleaned up.
Thanks for the hint. All right, is there anyone would like to speak in favor of this request? Seeing none? Anyone who would like to oppose this request? Anybody on Zoom on either of those?
For neither have any of them raised their hands.
All right. So there were no issues raised, so you don't have to really respond to anything so far. Staff, if you would like to summarize anything. If not, we can move forward. All
Again,
right.
we're just here for any additional comments or questions that you may have for staff. I think Ms. Frazier has explained the project and the property owner, and we're asking you to move forward.
All right. If there is no more deliberation from the council, I would like to go ahead and have someone make a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a move for approval of ordinance -O-22-16.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. All in favor, signify aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously. Unfinished business. We have none. New business, first reading of ordinance number O-23-01, petition for voluntary annexation, a 40.23 acre parcel located at 8925 86th Avenue. Second reading and public hearing for April 12th, 2023. Mr. Anand.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is an ordinance of the City of Sebastian, Florida, providing for the volunteer annexation for land consisting of 40.23 acres, more or less, located south Sebastian River Landing, east of vacant property west and north of single-family development, providing for the extension of the corporate limits and boundaries thereof, providing for proposed land use and zoning classification, providing for scrivener's error, providing for conflict and severability, and providing for an effective date.
All right, thank you so much, sir. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on this? Yes.
Good evening. For the record, I'm Rebecca Grohall with MBV Engineering. I'm here to speak on behalf of the applicant. We want to thank staff for their support and guidance through this application, and we ask for your approval tonight. I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
All right, thank you so much. Yes, ma'am, come on up.
Grace Reed, City of Sebastian. I just wanted to say I support this. I'm a firm believer that anytime the city can annex some property in and get that to be part of our tax base, then that's a positive for the city. There's so much negativity about the graves and not wanting to make the city any bigger, and the tourists are in the way and all of this other stuff. Well, the tourists are a big part of what makes this city. And if anybody thinks that 510 is not going to be developed, whether it's us or the county, they're sadly mistaken. One only needs to Google the city of Vero Beach and see that it's a circle about that big versus what they call Vero Beach, which is this big. And that's what the county is going to do all around us if we don't get some of that property. And I can guarantee you, if a 50 River Drive was part of the city, a 3-story hotel wouldn't be going down there because that's out of our code. And nobody's going to stop it with the county. And I took the opportunity to just kind of look at the community development report for North County. And there's already things that are on the books that the county has already approved. Now, their site submittals need to be done and those types of things. We've already got Pelican Bay and El Capitan over here on the river. You've got the Echo Lodge, which is going to be, it says 18 3-story units of 4,000 square feet each. You've got Blue Water Bay, Right now, you just got Liberty Park Phase 1 and 2, A and B. There's an Equitas Corners, right there where 510 and 66 meet. That's a great big old convenience store with gas pumps and car washes and everything else. Sebastian Landing Development up on the highway just north of where the promenade is now. That's also going to has 72 multi-units. So there's a lot of things that are coming in, and they're coming whether it's part of the city or whether it's not a part of the city. And I'd really like to see it part of our tax base, so I'm all for this anytime we can get it. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Is there anyone else from the public who would like to speak on this? All right, hearing none, council?
Mr. Mayor, make a motion to approve ordinance O-23-01 and set a second reading and public hearing for 12th of April, 2023.
Second.
Do we have a motion and a second? Any other discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. All in favor, signify aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Next item on our agenda, council, is review resolution number R-21-32, City Council meeting procedures. Does anyone have anything they want to change on that or anything? So, in this case, Mr. Anand, what we do is just, if we don't say anything, then it actually stays the way it is, correct?
That's correct, sir.
All right, thank you. So, do we need to make a motion to deny? Nope.
No, sir, unless
All
you
right.
have directions for us to change it and bring it back to you.
All right, very good. We'll move on to the next item. Consider joining the Florida League of Mayors. I know that came up. You know, I've, a couple weeks ago, I attended the Legislative Action Committee, and I've spoke to a lot of mayors and some other people from the Florida League of Cities, and I know Mr. Dodd know about this as well. I just don't think that we're in a position that would really benefit us right now. That's my position on that, council. I don't know if anyone else have any comments or not.
Well, they've asked us for, at least for the last 3 years that I've been involved with the Florida League of Cities in a heavier base, they've asked us why we don't join it, and my comment is, most cities in Florida have elected mayors. And you'll find these mayors are elected for 20 years in a row. And so they build alliances and so forth in the Florida League of Mayors. The way that we tend to elect our mayor, it's kind of a rotational basis. I mean, if a person is mayor for 2 years, that's a long time, typically. And I just didn't personally see any advantage to us joining it. You know, because it's the same meetings that we go to pretty much as the League of Cities people. We go to the same meetings that they go to. But the cost of it is minimal, and if it's feeling that we can get some additional exposure out of it, because getting exposure for a city the size of Sebastian is very important, especially when we start getting involved in legislative issues and things like that for people to know us. So I wouldn't be opposed to doing it if the feeling is that we can get some exposure out of it. I'm just not 100% sure we can.
Mr. Nunn.
Mr. Mayor, you know, if we didn't have the president of the Treasure Coast League of Cities as part of our council, and we're not a mayor-strong form of government, I just don't, I tend to agree with Councilmember Dodd. I don't think there's a benefit for us to come for this. If we had a council, if we had a mayor-strong form of government, or we had an elected mayor, it might be different. But at this point, I think we're good. And we have great representation within the Florida League of Cities. Yep. At least I know 3 of us are on legislative committees, and I think we're in a good place. I don't think there's a point to spend the money.
All right, thank you. Anyone else like to comment on that? All right, so we're just not going to go forward with that. We don't need to make a motion. We already have a consensus. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right, city attorney matters. Mr. Anand.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. During the last council meeting, I was asked a question pertaining to the school board's planning citizens oversight board, and I was asked the question was pretty much, can a elected official sit in that board? The individual I spoke to is Mr. Ryan Sweeney. You might know him from the county. He is the chief of current development, and he handles all the school concurrency. In the memorandum that I supported to you, I'm not going to regurgitate what the statute says, but the section pretty much is pretty clear, and his explanation to me is the answer is no. The citizens' planning is for reasons for citizens, and we have one for elected officials. In this case, it would be the mayor. So on the bottom there, I just put a little recommendation from you guys that, you know, ask the city clerk to go ahead and advertise that vacancy, because there is a vacancy, and for that oversight, for that citizen oversight committee appointee, and or you guys can reach out to the city clerk for what your suggestions are, so you can get that position appointed. Nothing further on that issue, Mr. Mayor.
Do we need to get a consensus on that right now so the city clerk can advertise that, or you just want to move forward?
I think the best thing is, yes, get a consensus. If you guys agree with my recommendation to tell the clerk, go ahead and advertise for that vacancy, I think that should be a consensus from the board.
All right, thank you so much. I think she's already done that. Okay. Your next item?
Is there a consensus?
Yes.
Yes. Yes, the next... Take my ears back off. The next issue dealt with the signs, and in your packet, what I did for you guys is to just go ahead and provide you guys the breakdown of what the three applicable laws. In this case, one is a Florida statute, 102.031, and the second one, of course, is our own code, which specifically restricts any signs on our right-of-ways. And that was the issue during this election. You guys remember there's, of course, you were running, ma'am, and so was Councilmember Dodd, but there was a lot of signs in our right-of-way. So what I did is, initially, I just did the research and I looked at the law, and what I quote there in subsection 4, E as in echo, and I underline this for quicker brevity, is the owner of the property of which a polling place and early voting site is located may not prohibit the solicitation of the voters by a candidate. To me, it was clear that we cannot do it because we own this building and we are allowing them by a contract to be here and do the polling, the early voting. Additionally, when you look at that very same section, I also paraphrase it, I think it's section B as in Bravo, that defines specifically what solicitation was. And in there, one of the last things that says in that section, and I'm going to quote it, and engaging in any activity with the intent to influence or effect of influencing of a voter. That to me is pretty broad. So what I did in addition, I was talking with Vice Mayor Nunn, and through his request, I also reached out to Supervisor of Election. I had a conversation with her today, along with our clerk, Jeanette. And she was not clear, but she thought definitely that right-of-way was an issue. So she suggested to me contact the State Department of Florida, Department of Election. So I had my two contacts there, and I emailed her, and she responded pretty quickly. And that's the email you have in front of you right now. Her response is crystal clear. If we're using this building as a polling place, according to the state of Florida, we cannot prohibit in any way. And she believes that there's cases out there which defines even those standalone signs as solicitations. So I'm going to modify, based on that, I'm going to modify my recommendation to you. And one would be leave it like it is and do nothing for those 2 weeks and just let the sign stand out there if that's what council wants. Alternatively, the only way you can avoid that, because right now state law preempts our code if they're using this building, if the council decides next 2 years from now not to allow the county to be in this building. And I also called Vero Beach, because that was mentioned. Vero Beach does not allow the county in their building. That's why the law doesn't apply to them. That would be my option 3, is pretty much don't reach out or don't enter into an agreement with the city and the supervisor of the election if you choose to do that. Again, my recommendation, the best option to me is 1, do nothing for those 2 weeks, but I just want to give you guys some other options that you do have. And with that, I have 2 more points, but I'll let the council digest that one for a second.
All right, may I make a comment, Mr.
No,
Mayor?
I think he's got a couple more.
Oh, he's got 2 more comments, okay.
I would prefer to hear anything about this before I move on, sir.
Okay, Mr. Nunn.
So I'm reading this, and maybe I'm reading it differently, but I'm going to read it and tell you what I see. As to solicitation, I believe case law confirms it applies to political signs, meaning no solicitation within the polling place. And no means no, not just fewer. To me, she's directly saying there's no solicitation at a polling place, including signs.
But that does
I
say
think that's
within,
not
does it not?
right.
I'm
yeah,
sorry, says what?
Said within.
Does it say within the polling place?
Within.
Well, it just says voting location. It doesn't just say that, and I love how they make everything crystal clear, so it's crystal clear. The statute's referring to the property on which the voting site is located, and that may happen to fall outside the 150-foot zone, and not any and all property wherever located. So the question is, if it's a polling place and it's the same property, to me it sounds like it's very clear there shouldn't be signs there.
I think that's within 150 feet of the polling
I
place.
think that's what it is.
And outside of the polling place, Ms. Swan said that would fall under our own ordinances within the city.
Yeah.
I personally don't feel solicitation includes sticking a sign in the ground and walking away. If you want to stand there and hold a sign for 2 weeks, more than well, feel free to. I just don't think, in my opinion, reading this, and y'all can decide on your own, and we can discuss it and make a decision, but everything I've read talking to Mrs. Swan, to me, it sounds like outside of the 150-foot point, which the front of our building is outside of the 150-foot point, that we can follow our own ordinances. Our ordinance says very clearly, no political signs on city property. They've never been there before this year. Never, ever have we seen political signs on this property before this year. I know, I've ran twice. We've never had signs out in front of this building before this past election, ever.
And was this the Attorney General's opinion that you got, that they have from, or their chief or something?
It's not an official opinion. I know her, so I emailed her, and then I followed up with a subsequent conversation because she was curious as to where this right-of-way was. And I said, literally, right next to the building. And she did bifurcate the two issues. Above the 150 feet marker, nothing. No signs, no waving, anything. Beyond that, you can't allow signs. And she adamantly told me that it does apply to us because we do own this building. So pretty much my opinion is going to be either one or number two. Either you do nothing for those 2 weeks and or you decide not to enter into any kind of agreement with the county allowing them to use this building. However, at this point in time, the statute to me initially before I contacted the state of Florida was vague, and I thought it was definitely could lead us to litigation. So I wouldn't recommend that course of action, which is amending anything at this point in time. However, that's just my recommendation. I stand whatever the three of you or council wants to tell me.
So
in addition
right now,
to that, after I spoke to the deputy general counsel for the Department of Election, she adamantly told me, no, you can't do it.
So as of right now, the way it's written, I think the word in there is the solicitation and how it's interpreted by different branches. So if we disallow those signs and still allow them to be in here, we're setting ourselves up for a legal challenge.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
as I remember, years ago, the interpretation, what meant you had to hold your sign. You couldn't place it, but that has been challenged in court. So now they allow kind of the placement. The only time we run into it here at City Hall is early voting in the even years. Now, every year, Leslie Swan, she's got to come here, the supervisor of elections, to request that we hold early voting here. Now, if it's a big problem within the city, I'd like to see when that's on the agenda, however many citizens come up, you say, we don't want to have early voting here or whatever. But once you establish the way it looks, a contract that we're going to have it here, then you got to have the signs out there. You know, I thought it was pretty bad, but it fails in comparison to supervisor elections. Over there, I mean, it was insane. But I mean, you got to deal with it. So either we can decide as a board, next time she comes and petitions to hold early voting here, we can say, we're not going to do it. Because I think that's why St. Sebastian got out of being a polling place, because they didn't want everybody standing there and sticking the signs in the ground, and so they chose not to do it anymore. So if it becomes that big an issue, like to see the public come in, we don't want all the signs out there. The only way we can do it, no early voting here.
Right, yeah, no, I don't, you know, I would rather have our citizens come here to be able to vote. So if I have to put up with a few signs out on the street, or 10 or 20 or 100, it doesn't matter to me for a couple of weeks. I want our citizens to be able to come here and vote where they feel comfortable. So I would not be able to support anything other than that, so.
Mr. Mayor, may I?
Yes, sir.
You know the old adage, don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness.
Yeah.
Well, we've asked for permission. And with the government, once you ask for permission, you have to follow their rules.
Yeah.
And it seems to me that Florida Statute 102031 is pretty clear. We cannot prohibit this. We've been getting by with it for a long time, possibly. And now that once you raise an issue with the government, they start to, their ears perk up and the hair on the back of their hands kind of stands up and they go, oh boy, I got them now, So I think it's pretty clear. I think we should go with option number one. We should put up with it for the 2 weeks, recognize that it's just something we're going to put up with, because I agree with you 100%. I think it's a very valuable thing for our citizens to be able to come here and vote. And so I just personally think that we should we should select option number one and just anticipate that we're going to put up with it for the next 2 weeks, for that 2 weeks.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Dixon?
My thoughts on it are, running for office is a very patriotic thing to do. And these signs, while it was very congested out there, they're not quite as annoying as the commercials that we have to hear on the radio and while we're watching TV. They're not jumping out and screaming at us. They're just busy. And I wholeheartedly agree. There were a lot of people who took advantage of early voting, and I think we want them to vote in their hometown.
Now, Mr. Nunn, did you have something on that, or do you need a consensus or anything not to go forward researching anything else? Because I don't want you to spend your time on something that does not need to be visited.
I think I heard a consensus from the board to leave it like it is and deal with the 2 weeks.
All right. Sorry about that, Mr. Nunn.
Listen, I am not here for my own amusement. I'm here for the behest of the people, and that you've all spoken. They can bring it up with you if they disagree with it.
All right, we're going to move on to...
I have 2 more quick items. Just
what?
quick.
You're done.
No.
Okay, you can go ahead.
It's just, I want to congratulate Councilmember Nunn. Dodd. I don't know if people understand the issue of him being elected today, or at least appointed today. The the president of the Florida League of Cities was here, swearing him in. I think it's pretty prestigious that one of our elected officials is now the president of the Treasure Coast Florida League of Cities. So I just want to commend you on accepting that responsibility and duty. And the last thing, obviously, what we hear about the festivity, just want to wish you all and the citizens a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year's.
Merry Christmas. Thank you, sir. Mr. Carlisle.
I too would like to congratulate Councilmember Dodd on getting the president of the League of Cities for the Treasure Coast for the League of Cities 100th year celebration. So that's a great opportunity, and I would like to congratulate him for that. He did a lot of hard work to earn that spot. 2 items that I have for business-wise to update you on. We have reached a tentative agreement with the police department on the union negotiations. They're taking it to vote. Hopefully, we'll have that back to you for ratification. And tomorrow, at 1:30, I believe it is, we start the negotiation with the general employees and the supervisors. So hopefully, that will go well, and we can get those 2 contracts to you, either together or separately, and get this thing moving forward. I think we've reached an amicable agreement that I think benefits the city and benefits the employees. Other than that, I wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And if there's any other questions for me, I'll be happy to answer those.
All right, thank you so much. Madam Clerk.
I wish everybody a Merry Christmas as well.
All right, thank you. Now to council matters. I get to go first tonight. Wow. Okay, so the first thing I'd like to say is for everyone that's not here, cannot see, but the majority of our staff has Christmas attire on, including the council. I want to thank you all for that. And we also asked our staff to decorate their offices. So we've been upstairs, I don't know, but they did a wonderful job. The clerk's office and what's it? Leisure services.
Obviously, they didn't do so good, huh?
No, I'm sorry, but everybody did a great job. Thank you guys so much for making this City Hall look like Christmas in the foyer, everything. So it has been great. And I want to also say congratulations to Councilmember Dodd. I was at the the Treasure Coast League of Cities today when he was sworn in officially as the president of the Treasure Coast League of Cities. And I just want to congratulate him on that. I'm sure you're going to do a great job for us, particularly when we go to Tallahassee during the legislative sessions. So I thank you for that. I want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, and everyone be safe, please. If you're out drinking, please have someone drive you. If you can't, call Uber or Lyft, or I don't want to promote a business, but call someone, a rideshare program to come and get you. So that's all I have. Vice Mayor Nunn.
Yes, as well, today at the Treasure Coast League of Cities luncheon, it was an honor to see Councilmember Dodd be appointed, and congratulations on that. Also, wanted to say thank you to Boy Scout Troop 551 for being here tonight and introducing all the young scouts to a government at work. Seeing it, that's a good thing. You see, we don't always agree, but we always have discussion and get through our meetings and get business done for the city. I wanted to wish the citizens all a Merry Christmas, and that's all I have for tonight.
All right.
Next up, Councilmember Dixon.
I have a few things, so hopefully I'll remember them all. First of all, maybe Mr. Anon can help me with this. I believe you brought to our attention, and we kind of missed it, you were willing to give us a little class on ethics, the charter and sunshine law. Can we make a motion to get that in a workshop?
I knew I had one last issue, and that was it.
Okay.
And thank you for reminding me. Last time we had a meeting, I mentioned that I'm willing to offer the new officers, and even the current ones, 286, 119, which is public records law and sunshine law. And I'm doing a small little difference this time. I'm adding a little bit with our charter provisions.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't get directions, so I was talking to Councilmember Dixon about that, and she corrected. She said she would bring it up, and yes, if you guys want me to do that, I would like to know available dates so I can start preparing.
Yeah, so how many minutes would you need for that? So can we come in like the first meeting in January, 30 minutes prior to?
For a lawyer, probably like 2 hours. Not just kidding.
You don't have to make it brief.
I did
Use
a
the
slight
PowerPoint.
version. I did one for the Natural Resource Board. This is a little bit different, though. I've never done training on our codes. But Jeanette, how long did that take? Like 30 minutes, 20 minutes last time? About 20 minutes, maybe.
Okay.
And barring any questions, of course.
So if we're all here at 5:30 ready to go, you should be good.
Actually, sir, I think the public might be
Yes.
well advised to see this. Maybe we should do it from 6 to 6:30 so that the public can actually see it.
I think that's a great idea.
We've done that in the past.
I like it.
We
Yeah,
did it at
that's
the
a
beginning
novel
of the
idea.
meeting and then went into the meeting.
Yeah, that way we don't have to come early then. I thank you for that, Ed. We may get out later, but.
Not if you can rush the meeting, no.
Oh, okay, so that's great. So we could have that, we can have that on our first meeting in January.
Yeah.
So you have a consensus, right?
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am, for reminding me.
Thank you. Also, I sat in at the county commission meeting yesterday, and one thing that I thought was a great move forward with the county is they're going to hold a hearing next Tuesday regarding making our county parks smoke-free zones. And I thought that was good, especially mom of children when we're at the parks. I personally can't stand when we're by somebody who's just blowing their smoke in their faces. I think it would be something that would be good for our city too. So we'll watch and see how this works with the county and go from there. Also, I just wanted to thank our city staff and the residents for a great parade. It was absolutely awesome. Everyone was full of holiday cheer, and it was just a wonderful night. Thank you, Brian, for all you do for that. And that's it.
All right, thank you so much. Mr. Dodd.
I just want to thank the city manager for wearing his Christmas suit tonight. It is, it's really diabolically nice. I mean, it's scary that, it comes up like that, but I've heard, the lady that came up this evening talked about the water problems, and you know what that is. That's where a new construction, actually, they elevate the septic tank, so they elevate the property, and the water drains into other people's lots. And I know we have some code issues that can stop that. I'm wondering if maybe it would be possible to bring that back to the council and see if there's something that we need to do to tighten that a little bit, maybe, and talk about it, because I've heard that same thing from probably 5 different homeowners right now, where they've got new construction. And as we're doing this infill, and every empty lot in Sebastian is being built on right now, they're creating a lot of that. So maybe it would be worth kind of bringing that back to us and talk about,
Yes, I've heard the same.
you know, talk about if there's something that we can do to tighten that regulation down a little bit. Of course, the problem always is you can tighten the regulation, but enforcement is an extremely difficult task on some of those things, but we can do with that.
Councilman Duncan, can you keep an eye on what Martin County's doing and just see what they come up with, because it might be a good... I apologize. If you could keep an eye on what Martin County's doing, because it might give us a precedent for how to set that. I've also thought about a workshop about this maybe down the road, so we'll talk more about that. But if we see what Martin County's doing, it might actually help us.
Okay. So that was one item maybe for the staff to consider. And I don't think anybody realizes just exactly how much work Brian and his staff do on that Christmas parade. And I want to make sure that we all understand that that's a monumental task to put that thing together, and it was very well run and very well put together. I was personally responsible for slowing it down when I was passing out candy, but I will tell you, those kids stood in line for 2 hours waiting for a candy, and I just was not going to not give it to them, you know. So, and I know Paul came up twice and told us to keep moving. It was, you know, he was, and then. It reminds me of the trip that I took with the mayor to a Florida League of Cities meeting, and he told me I was making illegal lane change. So I guess he went back to his old job when he did that. So, but I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas. Be safe. Think about your family. Think about all the people in the world who aren't going to be able to have a Merry Christmas, and pray for peace if you can do that.
All right, thank you so much. Mr. McPartland.
Oh, I got a number of things, you know. I would like to congratulate Mr. Dodd, and I planned on being at your lunch, but you kind of left me at an MPO meeting, and they made me the chairman running for over 2 hours, and unfortunately it was Miss Dixon's first MPO meeting, so she was thrown right in the fire. But I just want to know, did we figure out that stamped out thing with Florida Department of Transportation?
We did. We were able to get them to acquiesce on those items that we had concerns over, and to change it if it comes in too high, to allow us to get our deposit back. So we did work those items out.
Okay, because I grabbed Jerry O'Reilly down there and I told him I wanted it for free. He said we couldn't get it for free, but he gave me the guy Chris Care's number. You know, they were willing to come up and discuss, you know, whatever the problem was, because they are always very open. So I'm glad we got that under control. Another thing that happened in MPO is, you know, and this was the first time I saw this, tomorrow night at 5:30 at the Sebastian Community Center, they're going to have the public meeting concerning, they're going to redo the bridge over the Sebastian Inlet. And I saw the preliminary plans, as you did, Mr. Dodd, several months ago, and this is going to be unbelievable what they have planned for there. I mean, it's a must-see when you go over that bridge as it is now, the views that you get, but they're talking at, I think it's $95 million this project's ultimately going to be. And it's going to have like bump outs out there, so hopefully observation. So it's a time for the public. And again, these things don't happen overnight. This is a long process. So this is the first of many public meetings. So if you're interested to go out there and see what's going on, it's at the Sebastian Community Center tomorrow at 5:30 p.m. And then, let's see, the other thing, I thought, you know, we all talked about the parade. I couldn't make it. I had some family issues I had to deal with. But the light up night that the Chamber put on was also a very excellent event that occurred. And last, I know you mentioned the laying of wreaths. I was at the Indian River County Veterans Council meeting the other day. And the most important thing is the ceremony they have for laying the wreaths is at 10:30, starts at 10:30 Saturday morning. And that's extremely moving. It's not, you're just, That's where you take a wreath and you approach the grave and you thank a service member, thanking them for their service, and you're laying a wreath on their grave. There's nothing more powerful than that. And especially if the Boy Scout troop, that's something to see, for the youth to see, and the respect and the honor for service. And so I think that's just something to reiterate. And again, I just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. And I understand Mayor Jones will be a designated driver for multiple people, so just call him.
What? Also at that wreath laying ceremony, anyone that's laying a wreath is required to read the name of the person on the headstone before you place the wreath. So before I close this meeting, what I'd like, if council would indulge me, I'd like for us to go down front, take a picture with all of our staff, and then staff gets out of the way, and we bring the Boy Scouts up with the council up front, and we take a photograph with them. Is everyone okay with that?
$5.
All right, so this meeting is adjourned, and we will do the photos.